I bought my niece a new iPhone. She threw it at me because it wasn't the Pro Max. Then my sister demanded I apologize. Hi, I'm Logan, 29, and last month my niece lobbed an iPhone at my face because it wasn't the Pro Max. And somehow I was the one expected to apologize. I've always been the reliable one. The spreadsheet uncle. The group text answerer. The guy who brings backup batteries to birthday parties and knows everyone's Wi-Fi password by heart. I write code, I fix things, and I take pride in never missing a recycling pickup. My sister Tasha? She takes pride in vibes. Her daughter Kayla, 14, takes pride in filters and followers and knowing which iPhone is actually worth owning. So when I bought her the newest model for her birthday, the iPhone 15, yes, the regular one, not the Pro Max, I thought I was doing something nice. Not change her life. Nice, just. Wow, thanks, Uncle Logan. Nice. I walked into my parents' house with a dozen bagels and that box phone. The plan was simple: smile, hand it over, eat lox, avoid drama. Instead, the moment I stepped in, Kayla marched up, held the phone like it was an expired coupon, and said, "This isn't the Pro Max. Do you even listen?" Before I could answer, she threw it. Not a toss. A throw. Like she was starting a game of dodgeball and I was the practice target. It hit my chest, bounced off, and landed on the floor with a soft thud and a hairline crack on the screen protector. Silence. Tasha stood up like she was going to defend me. Instead, she crossed her arms and said, "Apologize to my daughter." I laughed. Not out loud. That dangerous, internal kind of laugh where your brain short circuits because it's so deeply absurd that your body doesn't know what to do. My mom smirked. My dad sipped his tea like it was a courtroom drama. Nobody asked if I was okay. Tasha repeated it. Apologize. Or get out of our home. Our home. Their home. The one I paid the mortgage on for a year when Tasha was between jobs and my parents were adjusting to retirement. So I picked up the cracked phone, set it gently on the table like it might explode, and said, "Okay." That was the moment. The moment the Logan they all counted on: ATM, therapist, tech support, Uber with snacks, officially retired. No raised voice. No dramatic exit. Just a quiet nod and a boundary. I left without the bagels. The group chat exploded before I even got home. Tasha. Next time don't humiliate a child. Mom. We raised you better. Dad. Call me. Kayla, in her usual Gen Z masterpiece of victimhood. I'll just buy it myself then. Whatever. I stood in my apartment quiet, clean, mine, and stared at the glittery Pro Max case I'd found in my mailbox 2 weeks earlier. No return address, just a note tucked inside. Can you just order it so there's no delay? Love you, T. Like I was her assistant. Or a genie. Or her corporate sponsor. That phone throw hadn't come out of nowhere. It was the inevitable finale of 1,000 unchecked entitlement encores. I hadn't blinked when Tasha borrowed my Amex for one last payment. And never returned it. I hadn't said anything when Mom moved their car insurance to my name for the bundle discount. I never agreed to. Or when Kayla's cheer fees were zelled to me with a note that said, "You're the only one who understands." I was the only one who enabled. That night, I didn't reply to the texts. I cooked dinner for one. I watched the lights of the city climb up my window like they always do, quiet and relentless, and I didn't flinch. The next morning, I made a decision. I opened my laptop and did something radical. I made a spreadsheet. I listed everything. The rent subsidies. The Tesla insurance. The forgotten investments in Tasha's never-launched beauty business, more Canva than cash flow. The family plan subscriptions I hadn't used since season 2 of Stranger Things. The number made my stomach churn. It wasn't just money. It was time. Attention. Sanity. A full-time job with no paycheck and worse benefits. So I wrote an email. Simple. Clear. Cold enough to be mistaken for legal advice. Bullet points. Dates. What would stop and when. Then I opened the group chat. I typed one line. We need to talk about money. The typing bubble started instantly. Tasha fired back with, "If you're going to be petty, just keep it." Mom followed with, "Don't you dare hold this over us." Dad sent a thumbs-up emoji to Mom's message, then texted me privately. "Don't be dramatic. We'll talk Friday." Friday came. So did I. I arrived early. Brought a folder. Printed bank statements. Dates. Totals. I'd even color-coded them like a teacher grading a test she already knew they failed. They shuffled in like it was a meeting they'd been forced to attend. Tasha in her power stance. Mom with a legal pad. Dad pacing, arms crossed. Kayla on the couch with her phone, barely looking up. You going to apologize? Tasha started. No, I said calmly. I'm going to itemize. I opened the folder. I laid it out. Mortgage top-ups. Streaming platforms. iCloud. Tesla registration. Even the frozen yogurt subscription Kayla begged for last summer and then never used. Are you keeping score? Mom snapped. For once. I said, yes. Tasha muttered something about me being dramatic. Kayla whispered, so boring. Without looking up. I'm not here to fight. I said, I'm here to withdraw. Kayla snorted. So I guess I'm not getting the Pro Max. No, I said. You're getting exactly what you threw on the floor. I paused. Let the silence spread like fog. Then I looked at my father, the man who used to tell me, real men provide, and said, I'm done being your provider. I'm not your plan B. I'm not your bank. They all talked at once. Tasha accusing me of punishing her child. Mom accusing me of being cold. Dad accusing me of being too corporate. With family. And Kayla? Kayla looked up finally and said, can someone please just order my phone? That's when something inside me broke. No, not broke, unhooked. Like a collar snapped open. Like a leash dropped. No, I said quietly. No to all of it. And for the first time in years, no one knew what to do. The next morning, I took back the Tesla. Technically, I never gave it away. But for the last year, my dad had been driving it like it was his government-issued vehicle. Grocery runs, gym, school pickups, his poker nights. Your car's safer in the rain, he'd say. Yours has better speakers. Kayla chimed once, as if that justified anything. That Tuesday, I moved the insurance and registration back to my name. Changed the address. Parked it at my place and didn't answer when Dad called 3 times in a row. On the 4th try, he left a voicemail. You're stealing from your family. From your father. I saved the voicemail. Not out of spite. For documentation. That's who I was now. Wednesday, Tasha texted. You're being cruel to a child. You made her cry. She's devastated. Attached? A photo of Kayla, full tears, hair in her face, mascara smudged just enough to scream, raw pain, and Instagram-ready breakdown. Caption. She just wants to feel loved. Manipulation lives in your gut before your brain catches up. Mine did the usual flip, the one that says give in, fix it, make it better. But I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the drawer where I'd shoved the glittery Pro Max case. The one they sent me before they even asked. I stared at it like a relic from another lifetime. The kind of life where I traded my peace for approval and called it generosity. That evening, my cousin Leah showed up at my door with a bottle of wine and a 6-pack of something called Brief Empanadas. Her words, not mine. You okay? She asked. No, I said. But also, yeah? We ate in silence for a few minutes. Then I told her everything. The throw. The meeting. The spreadsheet. The backlash. She didn't gasp or blink, or even seem surprised. Instead, she said, I think they forgot you were a person. You became a service. That hit like a freight train in a therapist's voice. She told me something else, too. Tasha's going around saying you had a breakdown. That you're punishing your niece over a misunderstanding. Of course she is. I said. If I'm crazy, she's off the hook. That night, I blocked no one, but I also answered no one. My silence was not passive. It was intentional. Active. A firewall. Thursday, I drove Kayla to school. Dad had texted. Need the car to drop her off. I texted back. I'll do it. He didn't respond. Kayla stomped to the curb, AirPods in, hoodie up, not a single thank you in her vocabulary. Her friends were watching from the gate, nudging each other like I was a villain in a Disney Channel show. Halfway there, she spoke. Everyone has the Pro Max. You have a phone. I said. A very good one. It's embarrassing. She said. You don't get it. I get more than you think. She scoffed. Rolled her eyes so hard I think they saw traffic behind us. When we pulled up, she opened the door and got out without a word. But right before she shut it, she paused. I didn't mean to hit you, she muttered. It just slipped. I looked at her. And for a moment I saw the girl who used to build Lego towers on my floor and whisper, Uncle Logan, don't tell Mom I stayed up. I nodded. Physics did the rest. She cracked half a smile. Facts. It wasn't forgiveness. But it wasn't war either. Later that week, Tasha sent another request. Kayla needs rides now. This is what you wanted? I didn't reply. Because it wasn't what I wanted. It was just the first time I stopped sacrificing myself to avoid being called difficult. Saturday morning, a tow truck idled outside my parents' house. Not for my Tesla, for their old minivan. Missed payments. Final notice. Tasha texted me a picture like it was Exhibit A in the trial of my heartlessness. Look what you did. I looked at the date on the notice. It had been late before the iPhone. Before the spreadsheet. Before the boundary. I didn't break anything. I just stopped being the duct tape. The next week, my mother left a voicemail that started in tears and ended in threat. You're going to die alone, she said. Soft, trembling. Like she was already mourning my future. Like withholding affection was just another tool in the family chest, right next to the guilt hammer and the manipulation wrench. I played the message 3 times. Not because I doubted what she said, because I couldn't believe how easy it was for her to say it. I didn't call back. Instead, I made coffee. I put on real pants for the first time in a week. I opened my blinds. I put the glittery phone case in a drawer, the junk drawer, the one where dead batteries and loyalty cards go to die. Around noon, my doorbell rang. It was Leah again. This time with bao buns and a look that said, You're not as invisible as they made you feel. We didn't talk about the family. We talked about her dog. About a new park opening by the marina. About a weird dream she had involving Tom Hanks and a haunted bread machine. I laughed until I forgot I was supposed to feel ashamed. That night, I sent the final email. Subject line, account changes effective immediately. I removed my payment methods from all shared services: Apple, Hulu, Netflix, Spotify, Xbox, Amazon Prime. I re-registered the Tesla to my address. I canceled the autopay on their insurance. I pulled my name from Tasha's fake business account. I outlined everything in bullet points. No threats. No emotion. Just clarity like glass. Future support, if any, will require a budget and documentation. Tasha replied an hour later with 10 paragraphs of rage that ended in, You're abandoning your family. You're heartless. Kayla cried herself to sleep. I stared at that last sentence. I imagined her typing it with one hand while adjusting the Instagram filter on a new support my small biz story with the other. Then I typed and erased 3 different drafts. Finally I wrote, If you want help, send me a budget. No emojis. No love, no best, no kindness regards. Just a door she had to open with math, not tears. She responded with a photo. Kayla, crying again. Red-eyed, wet-cheeked, mouth twisted into the perfect portrait of emotional devastation. And under it, This is your fault. I turned my phone off. I did the dishes. I went to bed without checking notifications. Because here's the truth I've learned in the worst way: when you draw a line, the people who benefited from crossing it will call you cruel. Not because you are, but because they can't reach you anymore. Friday morning, my dad ambushed me in my driveway. You always thought you were better than us, he said, arms crossed, voice rising with that old-school pride he wore like cologne. No, I said. I thought I was responsible for you. That was the mistake. He pointed at the Tesla like it had insulted his masculinity. You love showing off, don't you? It's a car, not a billboard. You never apologize to Kayla, he snapped. That girl's been through enough. What exactly? I asked. Am I apologizing for? He didn't answer. Because the answer wasn't satisfying. Because it would have been. For not buying the exact phone she wanted. For not absorbing our bills. For refusing to be shouted at in my parents' house. Instead, he looked past me. At the Tesla. At the apartment. At the life I built outside of their narrative. Then he said the thing he thought would scare me. We'll remember this when you need us. That was almost funny. Because when, exactly, had I ever needed them? Later that day, Kayla texted me. Not a tantrum. Not a demand. Just 2 words. Computer help? I stared at it. Read it again. She followed up. PC won't boot. Black screen. Need it for school. I considered sending a tutorial link, but instead I drove over. She met me at the door. No makeup. No glitter. Just Kayla. The real one. Eyes wary, chin high like a shield. We didn't talk about the phone. I popped the case open. Checked the power. Reseated the GPU. The lights flickered pink and blue on the third try. She exhaled like someone let the pressure out of her ribs. Thanks, she said. I nodded. Anytime. She hovered. Can you show me how you did that? I felt something loosen in my chest. Yeah, I said. Grab a chair. We worked quietly. No drama. No entitlement. Just me and my niece and a broken boot loop. After a while, she muttered, almost too quiet to hear. I didn't mean to hit you. I was just mad. You know? I know, I said. You meant to throw it near me. Physics did the rest. She smiled. Facts. It wasn't a full apology. But it was a start. And more importantly, it was hers. That was enough for a Friday night. 2 months later, the Pro Max case was still in my drawer. I didn't throw it away. That would have felt too performative, like I was staging a symbolic bonfire. I didn't want theater. I wanted peace. And that case, glittery, rhinestone-studded, still smelling faintly of perfume and entitlement, was no longer a threat. It was just evidence. A souvenir from the day I stopped pretending the only way to be loved was to be useful. Life didn't turn magical overnight. This wasn't some montage where I suddenly took up yoga and met the love of my life and found a random check in the mail. But something shifted. A kind of internal background hum that had been screaming on full volume for years finally got quieter. For the first time in over a decade, I knew exactly what I spent my money on, and none of it was guilt. I started saying yes to things I actually wanted. I joined a pottery class. My mug was hideous. I loved it. It held exactly 5 ounces of coffee and 100% of my dignity. I went back to the gym. Not to punish my body, but to thank it. I pushed a feature live at work I'd been dragging my feet on for weeks. My manager said, "Nice job." I believed her. Leah and I met every Sunday for empanadas. We had a running joke about who could bring the weirdest filling. One week she brought black bean and banana. I brought mac and cheese. We both agreed we were culinary terrorists. I was rebuilding something quietly. Not my family. Not my image. Just me. But the universe, being what it is, doesn't let peace settle without sending a test. Tasha. She sent a text that was so long it came in 3 parts. The subject line might as well have been, "One last thing, until the next thing." It started sweet, concerned, even. "Kayla's been struggling, you know? She's had a hard time adjusting. I've been trying so hard with the business, but it's hard when you're juggling everything alone." Then came the pivot. "We just need one final infusion. Think of it as protecting your original investment." Attached? A Canva pitch deck. No numbers. No real projections. Just sparkly arrows, pastel lipstick icons, and stock photos of women laughing in salons that didn't exist. There were words like activation and influencer alignment and vision synergy. I blinked. I zoomed in. In the corner of one slide, I saw a note. "Tom won't say no if we say it's for Kayla." She didn't even change the name. I responded with one word. "No." The next message came fast, hard, furious. "You're evil. You're abandoning us." Kayla cried herself to sleep. I sat on my kitchen floor, back against the cabinet, phone in my lap, that old burn flaring in my chest like someone had hit the gas pedal on guilt. Then I did something wild. I texted Leah. "Tell me I'm not a monster." She called immediately. "Didn't even say hello?" "You're not a monster," she said. "You're a boundary with legs." I laughed so hard I startled myself. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I turned off all notifications and went to bed early. The next morning, I walked into my office and no one asked me for money. No one accused me of betrayal. No one cried on command. I just opened my laptop and worked. And the silence? It felt earned. Later that week, I saw my father standing in my driveway. He was holding a plastic bag with a folder inside. I stepped out slowly. He didn't look angry. Just old. Smaller. Like someone had deflated a balloon too fast. "Your mother's sick over this," he said. "So am I," I replied. "Just differently. You think you're better than us now. No. I think I'm not your debit card. You're cold, he said. You're calculating. I'm organized, I corrected. There's a difference. He handed me the folder. Inside, a stack of unpaid bills. Electric. Water. Internet. Due dates circled like targets. I thought maybe you'd want to know, he said. I looked up at him. You always taught me to be prepared, I said. Now I am. He didn't argue. He just turned, muttered something about how I'd changed, and walked away. He was right. I had. That week, Kayla texted me again. PC won't connect to Wi-Fi. Can you help? I almost said no. But something about the tone, it wasn't demanding. It was quiet. I went over. We sat in her room. I fixed the setting in 3 clicks. You don't have to do this, she said, eyes low. Do what? Still help me. I want to, I said. That's the difference. She paused. Then said, sorry. For the phone. For before. I didn't say it's okay. I didn't say, don't worry about it. I said what I meant. Thanks for saying that. She smiled. A real one. No performance. Just, Kayla. We didn't fix everything. But we built something back. Not with demands. With small, careful trust. And sometimes, that's how healing starts. With 3 clicks. A steady voice. And the kind of apology that doesn't need rhinestones to be valuable. Thanksgiving came. And with it, the annual spreadsheet of who's bringing what, hosted of course by me. Except this year, no one asked. No one texted. No one even mentioned the holiday until the Wednesday before, when Tasha sent a mass message like it was a marketing email. Turkey at Mom and Dad's. 2 p.m. Bring something if you want. I read it while eating leftover curry in my quiet apartment, the Tesla parked outside, registered in my name, insured on my plan, paid by me. It felt like a dare. I didn't respond. At 1:58 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day, I drove over with a small paper bag. Inside? A smoke detector. The one I'd meant to install 3 months ago. When I walked in, the house was full. Voices, music, smells, everything familiar, everything distant. Tasha saw me and froze. She was mid-sentence, telling some cousin about her studio relaunch, her arms sweeping over the table like she was pitching Shark Tank. Kayla looked up from her phone. No eye roll. No smile either. Just neutral. Guarded. Which, honestly, felt like a truce. Hey, I said. Hey, she muttered. Mom came out of the kitchen holding a pie. You came, she said, surprised. Like it hadn't occurred to her I might. Like I was an old neighbor who just wandered in off the porch. I brought something, I said, holding up the bag. She peeked in. Is that? Yeah, I nodded. The hallway still doesn't have one. She took it, blinked, and said the most unexpected thing in the world. Thanks. No guilt trip. No side comment. No layered sentence about how Kayla misses you. Just gratitude. I helped her set it up. We didn't talk about the Tesla. Or the spreadsheet. Or the dozens of unpaid favors I'd buried like bad bones. We talked about pie crusts. And for one strange, soft hour, I sat at the edge of my family like someone who belonged, but didn't have to bleed to stay seated. Later, I offered to drive Kayla home. She didn't say much in the car. Just stared out the window, chewing her thumbnail, hoodie sleeves pulled over her palms. As we neared her street, she spoke. Mom says you hate us now. I paused at a red light. I don't hate anyone, I said. I just stopped paying to be tolerated. She looked at me, face sharp with confusion, but something flickered. Understanding? Maybe. She asked. Do you ever wish you had a different family? I smiled. Sometimes. Then I remember I don't need a different one. I just need a different role. Silence. Then, I missed the science kits. Me too, kid. Me too. I dropped her off. She said thanks before shutting the door. Progress. That weekend, Leah and I went to a weird indie market. She bought handmade soaps shaped like ghosts. I bought a candle labeled Emotional Detox because we both laughed too hard at the name. At lunch, she said, You look lighter. I feel level. Is that code for lonely? No, I said. It's code for mine. I wasn't drowning in emergencies I didn't create. I wasn't waiting for the next panic phone call about a bounced check or a forgotten rent payment. I wasn't a background character in their chaos. I was the main character in my own silence. And silence? It's addictive when it's yours. The first holiday photo came without warning. A smiling group shot in the family chat. My parents, Tasha, Kayla, a few cousins, everyone crowded around a too bright tree in my parents' living room. The caption read, "Family is everything." I wasn't in it. No invite. No heads up. Not even a passive-aggressive, "You coming?" text. And yet, I didn't feel excluded. I felt clear. This was the version of family they wanted. One where I didn't exist unless I was paying for something or fixing something or absorbing something sharp without flinching. So I let them have that photo. Meanwhile, I had one of my own. Leah and I, standing in my kitchen, holding 2 plates of Christmas pancakes shaped like ghosts don't ask and wearing matching socks that said "Boundary Enforcer" across the toes. We laughed so hard we almost dropped the syrup. She said, "Look at you. Domestic and peaceful." "Don't jinx it." I muttered, but I meant it. The Tesla sat in the driveway, mine again. The bank account had stabilized. The only people texting me were the ones who actually liked me. But then Tasha escalated. Again. She sent an email with the subject line, "Final chance to make this right." The message: "The business is collapsing. We need to rebrand. Rebuild. Regroup. I have a new pitch deck. I'm asking you to meet me halfway for Kayla's future." I didn't open the attachment. I didn't need to. I replied. "If you want help, send a detailed budget, with itemized costs, revenue forecast, and repayment plan. I will not fund another Canva slideshow." She responded with, "You're disgusting." Then, as if on cue, a new text from a number I didn't know. A photo of Kayla. Tears streaked again. Face crumpled. Eyes bloodshot. Captioned, "This is what you're doing to her." That's when I learned something new about trauma. Even when you've built the wall, even when the boundary is strong, even when your phone is silenced and your soul is grounded, some wounds still know how to reach through the cracks. My stomach dropped. My chest buzzed. I felt that old reflex: fix it. Save her. Apologize even if it wasn't your fault. Instead, I put my phone down. I washed a plate. I sat at the window and watched the sky roll by. Then I texted Leah. "Tell me again that I'm not a monster." She didn't hesitate. She called. "You're not a monster," she said. "You're a man who stopped being the family landfill." I laughed, shaky and small. Then I got up and did something even scarier than saying no. I did nothing. Because they weren't in crisis. They were in habit. They were used to throwing fires at me just to see if I'd burn myself out trying to put them out. But this time, I let the match die out on its own. No funding. No fuel. No me. And still, the world kept turning. Still, Kayla went to school. Still, Tasha posted holiday selfies with motivational captions about strong single moms, while quietly tagging me in guilt. Still, Mom sent a forwarded chain email about Jesus and forgiveness. Still, I didn't answer. Not to punish. To protect. And that was the moment I realized peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the refusal to audition for someone else's crisis. In early February, something shifted, and not in the way I expected. I got a text from Kayla. No drama. No capital letters. Just, "My PC's overheating. Can we add fans?" Not please, but not demanding either. I replied. "Yeah. You home?" After 4. When I pulled into the driveway, she was already at the door, sleeves rolled up, screwdriver in hand. I blinked. "You opened it already?" I asked. She shrugged. "I watched a teardown on YouTube. I wanted to try." We sat side by side on the carpet of her room, surrounded by pink LED strips and a chaos of wires that made my spine twitch but also made me weirdly proud. Her hands were steady now. Still hesitant, but deliberate. "I labeled everything," she said. And sure enough, masking tape tags stuck to each cable: GPU, CPU, fans, RGB controller. For the first time in over a year, I felt like I was looking at my niece. Not the one from the tantrum. Not the Instagram version. The kid who once cried when her PC wouldn't post until I fixed her RAM seating, and she hugged me so hard I spilled iced tea on the motherboard box. I installed the new fans. She handled the cable management. We powered it on together, and the case glowed pink and blue like a sci-fi heart monitor. She grinned. I exhaled. Then she said without prompting, "I'm sorry. For before. For the phone. For everything." I looked over. She meant it. You can always tell when someone means it not by how sorry they sound, but by how they don't explain it away. No blame. No excuses. Just the words. I nodded. "Thanks," I said. "That matters." She leaned back on her palms, watching the PC hum softly. "I think I want to build one from scratch," she said. "Like a real one. All my own." "Let's do it," I said. "But next time, we start with airflow, not glitter." She snorted. "Deal." That moment? That was the real rebuild. Not a redemption arc. Just a small restoration of something real. 2 days later, I got a call from Mom. She didn't apologize. She didn't cry. She didn't defend anyone. She just said, "I made too much soup. Do you want some?" I paused. She added, "It's the good kind. The one you liked as a kid? With the dumplings." I don't know what made me say yes. Maybe it was the quiet in her voice. Maybe it was the fact that, for once, she wasn't trying to sneak a guilt trip in between the celery and the carrots. I said, "Yeah. I'd like that." I ate at the kitchen counter. No drama. No lectures. No sideways glances about how I'd changed. We talked about the weather. About the neighbor's cat. About a movie she thought was decent but too loud. Before I left, she touched my sleeve. "You always were dependable," she said, softer than I'd ever heard her. The word didn't sting this time. It didn't feel like a trap. It felt earned. And when I got in the car, I didn't feel manipulated. I felt like a grown man in a car he owned, driving away from a house he didn't have to fix, carrying soup he didn't have to earn. Later that night, Kayla texted me a photo. Her PC glowing like cotton candy. Captioned, "Added fans? No more overheating. Hashtag Promax." I laughed out loud. Then I typed, "Looks dope. Proud of you." She replied with a single word. "Thanks." Not because she owed me. Just because she meant it. 2 weeks later, the Tesla started to feel like mine again, not because I was driving it, but because no one else was asking for the keys. There were no guilt texts about errands. No emergency pickups. No silent assumptions that I'd just handed over for a quick trip that turned into 3 days. It sat in my garage. Sleek. Quiet. Charged. Mine. Funny how something you paid for can still feel borrowed when you're surrounded by people who treat ownership like a group project. That Saturday, I washed it by hand. I hadn't done that in over a year. There was something satisfying about the water beating on the surface, the soap sliding off the hood like it didn't want to stay. A clean car. A clean slate. When I finished, I stepped back and just looked at it. Not as a flex. Not as a status symbol. But as a full sentence. I earned this. I kept it. I didn't apologize for it. Then I did something impulsive. I drove it to my parents' house. Not to make a statement. Not to reopen wounds. Just to drop off a package that had been misdelivered to me. A box with Mom's name on it, addressed wrong, sent to my apartment because she'd once used my address for a return and never updated it. Old habits. She opened the door, sweater tied at the waist, glasses perched on her nose. "Oh," she said, surprised. "You didn't have to." "I was out anyway," I said. A white lie, offered like a peace token. She didn't ask me in. But she didn't close the door either. We stood there like two people in line at a DMV civil, slightly awkward, bonded only by paperwork. She took the box. I turned to leave. Then she said quietly, "I'm glad you're doing well." I turned back. "Thanks," she added. "Even if it's without us." I shrugged. I never wanted it to be without anyone. I just wanted it to be without conditions. She nodded. That was it. No apologies. No tears. No monologue about childhood wounds or forgiveness arcs. Just two adults, standing in the middle of a long overdue understanding. Later that night, I opened the junk drawer. The Pro Max case was still there. Glittering. Empty. Harmless. I picked it up. Turned it over. Then I finally threw it away. Not as a declaration. Just because I didn't need it anymore. I had something better than a symbol. I had space. And in that space, I wasn't waiting to be asked for something. I wasn't on call for invisible emergencies. I wasn't anyone's backup plan. I was just Logan. No longer the fixer. Just whole. March came with rain and a surprise text from Dad. "Can you drive me to the clinic Tuesday?" I stared at it longer than I'd admit. Not because of the request, but because there was no bait. No subtext. No. Your mother can't. No. Since you're not doing anything. Just the ask? I replied. Sure. What time? 11, I'll be ready. Simple. When I pulled up that Tuesday, he was already on the porch, umbrella in one hand, jacket zipped all the way up like he was bracing for a storm. Hey, he said as he got in. Hey, I said back. We didn't talk much on the way. He asked about work. I asked about his blood pressure. We skipped the subjects that usually blew up the bridge between us. At the clinic, I waited with him. I filled out the form when he handed it over with a sheepish grunt. I watched him sign his name with shaking fingers, the same hand that once held the back of my bike so I didn't tip over. On the way home, he asked quietly, "You still mad at me?" I thought about it. Not the answer, the question. Because it wasn't the one he used to ask. It wasn't, "Why are you making a scene?" Or, "Why are you being cold?" It was curious. Vulnerable. "No," I said. "I'm not mad." He looked out the window. "You were right," he muttered. "I just didn't know how to say it without sounding like I failed." I stayed quiet. He went on. "I taught you to work. To pay bills. To show up. I didn't teach you how to say no without guilt. You taught me to stay," I said. "I had to learn on my own how to leave when staying became bleeding." He let out a long breath. Fair. We rode the rest of the way in silence, but not the cold kind. The kind you don't mind sitting in. The kind that feels like breathing room. When we pulled into their driveway, he didn't move right away. "Your sister's still pissed," he said. "I know. She says you've changed." "I have." He nodded slowly. "Good." Later that week, Kayla sent me a DM. "You free this weekend? I wanna pick parts." She meant the PC. I said yes. We met at a parts store downtown. She came with a list. A printed list. My heart grew 3 sizes. She picked her case based on airflow, not just aesthetics. She chose mid-range parts with good ratings. She asked questions. Real ones. What's the bottleneck if I go with this CPU? What's the wattage margin I should leave for future upgrades? I wanted to hug her and cry and buy her everything in the store. Instead, I just smiled and said, "You're getting it." When we got to checkout, she pulled out a gift card. Her own money. "I've been saving," she said. "You want me to cover the rest?" "No," she said. "Not unless I hit a wall." We loaded the parts into my car. As we drove, she said, "I know Mom's still mad. But I think she's starting to get it. I'm not waiting on her to." I said gently. "Same," she said. "Honestly? It's kind of freeing." I dropped her off and watched her carry the boxes up the steps, strong and careful and stubborn like someone I used to know and finally get to meet again. That night I got a text from Leah. "You still awake?" "Always," she called. We talked for an hour. About nothing. About everything. At one point she said, "You don't talk like someone holding their breath anymore." And she was right. For the first time in years I didn't feel like I had to earn my own oxygen. I just took it. Inhale. Exhale. Repeat. April rolled in with a quiet clarity I didn't trust at first. There were no emergency Venmo requests. No guilt-drenched voice notes. No Canva pitch decks begging for one last infusion. Just ordinary days stitched together like a quilt that didn't itch. I started to relax. Not all at once, but in pieces. I woke up one Saturday and realized I hadn't checked the family group chat in 2 weeks and nothing terrible had happened. I went to the gym. Grocery shopped without texting receipts. Took a nap at 3 p.m. because I wanted to, not because I was recovering from emotional triage. And Kayla? Kayla was thriving. We built the new PC together. She named it Chaos Core and picked a blue and gold color scheme that honestly looked better than anything I'd ever assembled. She did the cable management herself. Watched tutorials. Labeled her ports. At one point, she stopped mid-build and said, "Do you ever feel like you wasted a bunch of years trying to make people like you who were never going to understand you?" I looked at her. Every day, I said. She nodded. Me too. Then. But not so much anymore. One night in mid-April, I got a call from Mom. Not a text, a real call. She didn't start with tears. Or guilt. Or you know how your sister is. She started with, "Do you have a minute?" I blinked. "Sure. I talked to Tasha," she said. Tried to explain. "She thinks we picked sides. And I told her we're allowed to have boundaries now." I sat down on the edge of my bed like someone had hit pause on gravity. "You said that?" I asked. "I did," she said. And then she hung up on me. I waited for the follow-up. For the backpedal. For the, "But maybe you could reach out." It never came. Instead, she said, "You were right. You just said it louder." I didn't know what to say. I still don't. Sometimes parents change, and sometimes they just stop pretending they didn't know better. Both are hard to process. She continued, "I want us to have a normal Sunday lunch. Just you, me, and your dad. No drama. No expectations. Just soup and a movie, maybe?" I said yes before she could ruin it with more words. That Sunday, I showed up with fresh bread and zero armor. We didn't talk about the past. We didn't dissect the years. We didn't hash out Kayla's glitter phase or Tasha's endless flames. We just ate. They asked about work. I told them about a new project. Dad mentioned the neighbor who tried to power wash his own foot. Mom burned the garlic bread and cursed, and I laughed harder than I had in months. It wasn't healing. It was something better, human. Later, Dad walked me to the car. "You doing okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "I really am." He nodded, then reached into his jacket. "I found this," he said, pulling out a folded piece of paper. It was a printout of a Venmo receipt. From a year ago. One of mine. Paying for Kayla's cheer uniform. "I'm going to start making a list," he said. "So we don't forget again." I didn't cry. But my voice cracked when I said, "That's all I ever wanted." We didn't hug. Not then. But he patted my shoulder. And it didn't feel like pressure. It felt like presence. That night, Kayla texted me. Chaos core passed all benchmarks. No overheating. No crashes. Then, after a pause, "It's weird. I feel like I built something that actually belongs to me." I wrote back. "You did." Then I sat back, looked around my quiet apartment, and realized I had too. May arrived with sun that didn't feel ironic. I mean that literally, like the weather finally matched the way my life felt. No looming storms, no fake spring hiding cold wind. Just honest warmth. Like I could finally trust the sky. Work was good. Not thrilling. Not hellish. Just stable, which in tech is a borderline miracle. I had my weekends back. I started sleeping without checking my phone every 2 hours in case someone had set fire to their bank account and needed me to call the fire department and pay the bill. I saw Leah every Thursday. We'd made it a rule. Empanadas, dumb TV, no talking about the family unless one of us brought wine. And even then, just for 20 minutes, max timer on. Anything past that, we owed each other $10. We never went over. Kayla came over on weekends. Sometimes just to tinker, sometimes to sit on my couch and watch tech teardown videos like we used to. One day, she brought me a surprise. It was a mug. Ugly. Lopsided. The handle was too small and the glaze was uneven. It looked like it had been microwaved on accident. "I made it," she said. "In ceramics. It's supposed to be you." I stared at it. "I look useful," she smirked. "And indestructible." On the side, scratched in faint white letters, it read, B.W.L. "Let me guess," I said. "Boundary with legs." She laughed. "You're basically folklore now." That week, Tasha finally broke her silence with a vengeance. She posted a thread on Facebook titled, "When Family Betrays You, a Cautionary Tale." She didn't name me, but she didn't have to. It was a 10-paragraph epic about how some people pretend to be generous, just to control others. How support should never come with strings. How cutting off your family for being poor is still abuse. Cousins commented. Aunts chimed in. At least 2 people quoted Bible verses. I didn't respond. I didn't feel the urge. Leah sent me a screenshot and said, "Look at you. Unbothered king." I laughed and texted back, The throne is a desk chair, but thanks. Then I opened a new note on my phone. At the top I typed, Freedom Checklist. I started writing things I hadn't done in months and now could. Took a nap without my phone on. Bought groceries without checking if anyone else needed something. Went 10 days without a single guilt-trap text. Drank coffee in a mug someone made for me. And at the bottom, still have a niece who likes me. I looked at that last line for a long time. Because that's what I thought I'd lose when I pulled the plug. I thought choosing peace meant losing people. Losing her. But sometimes, when you stop giving people what they demand, you give them a chance to grow. And Kayla? She was growing like a weed in a broken sidewalk, resilient, slightly unhinged, and brilliant. That weekend, she asked if she could install her old PC in her school's robotics club room. Donation? I asked. Kind of, she said. I want to teach the others how to build one. Show them it's not magic. Just screws and airflow. You sure? She nodded. I want to be like you. I paused. Then said, be better than me. She smiled. No glitter this time, she promised. That Monday, I dropped her off early. Watched her carry the tower inside, wrapped in a beach towel and held like a holy artifact. She turned back at the door. Hey, she said. Thanks for building me something that wasn't a phone. I didn't say anything. Didn't need to. Because that was it, wasn't it? All the things I'd ever given, from streaming logins to braces to a glitter-covered Pro Max case, none of it hit like this. Like handing someone tools instead of toys. Power instead of permission. That was the legacy I wanted. Not the provider. Not the scapegoat. Not the guy who pays the bills and eats the blame. Just a man who built a boundary. And left the light on. May ended quietly. No explosions. No epic calls. Just space. Kayla texted less, but when she did, it was always something real. A bug in her code. A question about thermal paste. Once, just a photo of her cat sitting on her keyboard with the caption, System crashed. She never asked for money again. One Sunday, I was walking past my parents' house intentionally, not by accident, and saw my mom outside watering her plants. She looked up, surprised, then smiled. I made too much soup, she said. I didn't hesitate. I'll take some. Inside, the house looked lived in. Not staged, not fragile. Just comfortable. My dad was on the couch, watching baseball without yelling. He waved. I waved back. No speeches. No expectations. Later, Mom handed me a Tupperware container and said, You always were the dependable one. I see now that wasn't a flaw. Outside, I stood on the porch for a moment before heading back to the car. Not because I was unsure. Just to breathe. I'd started this year thinking peace had to be earned. Turns out, it had to be defended. With boundaries. With space. With silence that didn't ask permission. And now, I wasn't the ATM. I wasn't the apology. I wasn't the villain. I was just Logan. 29, alive. Unburdened. And for the first time in years, free.